Hello everybody, it's Philly Kuts with another comic book haul, the Hump Day haul, number 27. I can't believe I've been doing this now for more than 6 months. We're going on the second half of the year. Wednesday is the Hump Day for me. It's a day where I get to relax in the middle of the week. I get some pizza, I get some comics, and I got a nice stack of comics that I gotta get through. I may not have as much information about the comics in this week's episode because I've been distracted, which I wanted to talk about just for a moment. I've been distracted by these. It happened. I got infected by amiibos. I've been looking for them. I've started collecting them, and I don't even want to say how many I've bought so far. It's up there. And it all started with this guy, Dune Link. I saw him. This is probably from my favorite Legend of Zelda, the Wind Waker. And I just got bit. Why? Why did I ever have to see you? Because I was never paying attention to these things until then. Then I started to find out that they're ones that are hard to get, that are like uncommon, and I ended up scoring a Mega Man, which took me about 3 or 4 stores to find. And then I scored a Sonic. And I've even been making videos of me going out on the hunts. Yeah, I know I got issues. And I'm going to try to score a Toad that comes out on the 20th and the coveted Gold Edition Mario. It's like a gold amiibo, Walmart exclusive. It's supposed to be unicorn status, which means it's nearly impossible to find. I don't know if I'm going to find it, but I got to get these out of here. I got to just throw them back there. All right, people. Let's get started with the haul. I'm going to start out with Batgirl. I picked this issue up for the cover. And we're going to cut right to the chase. I'm naming this is the cover of the week right off the bat. I don't even have to go through all the other ones. This is the cover of the week. And it's based off Purple Rain, the movie Prince was in. That should be Prince on that motorcycle. And boy, what a job. What a job by, who did this cover? Cliff Chiang. Not familiar with him. But boy, oh boy, does the Batgirl of Burnside look fantastic on this cover. And I guess there's a story inside about her computer program that she created when she was Oracle or something, and it's coming back to haunt her, and it's really disrupted her life. And this is the ending story of the first story arc since the new creative team took over for Batgirl. And I just had to have this cover, and I finally gave in. But it was because of Prince. You know, I never had a secret pop star indulgence as much as I had Prince. And boy, oh boy, I love that song Purple Rain, and that's just all I thought about. Now, speaking of Batgirl, holy cow, was there a big controversy this week over Batgirl. And that's because in June, DC is going to be releasing variant covers similar to the note of, Harley Quinn. In June, after the Convergence event, it's going to be Joker variant cover month. And I guess they're going to be doing the same thing that they did with Harley Quinn and what DC does like every month. It's going to be Joker themes celebrating the Joker. Problem is, and I guess for Batgirl number 41, they were going to go with this cover. Let me see who the artist was first. Find out. The artist was Raphael somebody. Oh, I had it just a moment ago, people. Why do I always do this to myself? If only I would better prepare. And now I scroll down so damn far. Alright, well, I'm not sure I know who it is. Forget it, okay? We're going to have to just move on. Let me show you guys the picture of the cover so that we can discuss. And maybe I'll present some ideas, and I'm not necessarily... It's Raphael Albuquerque. did the cover, and I'm not familiar with him. And we'll talk about some ideas. But here's the cover, okay? Basically, it was going to look like that. Now, that's the Joker, based upon Alan Moore's, Brian Boland's classic, The Killing Joke, from about 30 years ago. And that's Batgirl crying with a look of terror, getting the Joker smile painted on her face. Well, I guess, you know, in The Killing Joke, which this cover is celebrating and is in reference to, you know, Batgirl really got a number done to her, Barbara Gordon. Basically, she essentially got shot. I think it led to her being paralyzed. I haven't read this story in a long time. She got shot by the Joker. Okay, there's the Joker at her door. She gets shot. Smashes through a table in the gut in front of her father, Jim Gordon. There she is here. Shot, brutally assaulted. Then later on, when the Joker has Gordon hostage, he shows her pictures that he took of Barbara. There it is there. There's Gordon. Now what do you think's happening there when you look at those pictures? Looks like a sexual assault or a rape. So not very good stuff. Now you can add that, well, you know, who knows, maybe Jim Gordon got raped. No one ever talked about it, but there's a sequence where he's stripped naked, put in a collar, an electric shock collar, by these brutal midgets. They're pulling his pants off, and God knows what happened there. Anyway, point is, very, very brutal scene and what was going on with her in that book and what happened to her. You know, very traumatic. And you have to question, I guess, what I question is, why did DC maybe decide to think that that would have been a great moment to be celebrated? I mean, I know that The Killing Joke is considered a classic. I consider it a classic. I think it's a great book. But when you think of the direction that Batgirl is in now, and who Batgirl is mostly intended for, and I think that a lot of the readers are young, you know, they're very young females, and it kind of has a more lighthearted theme to it, especially since the new creative team took over. Why would they want to celebrate something like that, where it was one of the most heinous forms of brutality that the Joker has ever committed? And not only that, but it can kind of raise questions as to whether or not Batgirl is simply being defined by her trauma, right? That here she is crying, vulnerable, in pain. Would a male superhero be portrayed in that way? I don't know. I mean, I've seen issues. Even today on the stand, I saw for Superman 39, the regular cover. I got the variant. In this issue, by the way, Superman is normal. He loses his powers. But on the regular cover, Superman is cowering behind, I think it's Jimmy Olsen. He looks scared. He looks afraid. But no one bats an eyelash at it. So it's hard to say. You know, this raises a lot of questions. And I just question it. My only question is how good of taste was this being done? And how did the editorial staff think that that would kind of fly and go over well? Now, should they have censored the cover and pulled it back? Well, I guess DC is saying that the artist, Raphael Albuquerque, had asked them to pull it. And now some people are saying, well, that was because the DC artist was being bullied. But then I'm reading also as well, it's that because people who are opposed to this cover and that were voicing dissent about this cover were being bullied by people that were in favor of the cover. So is that censorship that they decided to do that? No, not really. I mean, I don't really think the government came in and told them to stop. Was it a form of maybe self-censorship? where, you know, DC and the artists kind of have their own right, and they are entitled to decide whether or not it's going to make the press. And they decided not to. So I guess what I would have done is maybe even though it was in poor taste, I think I might have had them go and print the issue, and then you leave it up to the reader ultimately, who most of us are adults. And if you're a kid, you know, your parents should be monitoring what you're buying. You get the approval of your parents to buy an issue like that, and to definitely have a discussion about what is happening on that issue. But, you know, I think it's a slippery slope where we start to, you know, silence these kind of things in comics, you know. So it starts here, and then where is it going to lead to, you know? I mean, there was a time where schools wanted to ban Huck Finn, or was it Tom Sawyer, because the use of the N-word was being used throughout it. But that really showed the significance of how pervasive the racism was in our society at one time, and hell, it still is. So, I mean, very, very touchy subject, and I don't mean to be on a downer. I'm just kind of presenting ideas to you guys, and I would love to know what you guys think. Did DC make a big mistake? Did Raphael Albuquerque kind of cave into the pressure? Was it really Raphael Albuquerque who just said, pull the cover, or was maybe he getting pressure from the DC brass? You know, I can't imagine what it must have been like to be in his position once the shit started to hit the fan on this. So I'm sorry if I didn't formulate my opinions in the best way or the best fashion, but I can just say that it was a cover that was in pretty bad taste. And it did seem to be celebrating the sexual victimizing of a woman. And I don't know if that's the best thing to celebrate on a Joker variant cover. I just think it was very, very poor taste. I probably would not have bought the cover, you know, if it did come out. Bit too much there for me in my DC universe. Alright, sorry to be a downer. Let's move on. I also got Superman number 39. In this issue, Superman loses his power, his human. I guess he's coming off after the big battle with Ulysses that it was discussed in number 38. He got his new power, the solar flare. I think that must be what drained all his energy. And it continues the story where it ended in 38, where he reveals to Jimmy Olsen that that Clark Kent is in fact Superman. And, you know, Jimmy Olsen kind of doesn't believe it, and he kind of asks him to prove it. And then there's this little sequence about his glasses, and it makes his eyes look kind of funny. And that's how he was able to not look so much like Superman. Kind of a bit of a stretch. I don't know how much my suspension of disbelief was lifted on that. But it looks like to be pretty much just a filler issue. I do like the artwork of, John Romita Jr., the penciler, and Klaus Janson, the inker. Superman does look kind of cool, I must admit. It's got like a kind of heavy penciled, heavy ink look, like Adrian Schiff. So there we go, Superman number 39. Alright, let's move on to Superman number 20. The Superman's Joker story continues. In the last issue, it was revealed that basically all people that Superman cared about, people in his life, people that maybe he has helped, has saved, have been under attack. And they were getting killed and shot by these like projectiles. They were like bullets of little cute Kandorians, which are from Superman's home planet, Kandor. This continues the story. There's a lot of infighting in here between Superman and, of all people, his grandparents, which I thought was kind of interesting. Another interesting sequence that hasn't been mentioned by anybody is when Batman starts beating the hell, look at that, He says, but you're not my grandma, and he does a batters up to Superman's grandmother. Now, where the hell's the outcry about that? I mean, is it ageism? Is it because it's an older woman? Superman's grandmother, it's an older woman, and there's no outcry? Like for the Batgirl Joker variant cover? I don't know. I sometimes wonder how these battles are picked at times. But Superman, Batman, number 40. Okay, everybody that's been watching my comic book haul knows that I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. You know, since I started collecting again 6 months ago, I've been bit by the Green Lantern bug. This is the White Lantern on the cover here, Kyle Rayner. He has found new powers, I guess, or increased powers from his interaction with the life equation. I hope I said that right. Again, I haven't read this comic at all. This is the first issue I've ever picked up. But apparently, whatever powers this life equation has given him, it's doing damage and destruction to his brain. So I guess basically what this is going to ask here, is this the end of Kyle Rayner? Is this the end of the White Lantern? Does it all end in here? And I guess that DC is going to be coming out with another comic called the Omega Men next year. And next year, I mean after Convergence, I believe. And it's already been teased that Kyle Rayner has died. So I guess I just ruined it for everybody. But who knows? Maybe he's not really dead. Maybe something else happens. All I know is that when I leaf through this issue, there's tons of battle sequences. There's some Guardians. I really love the artwork in here. And the coloring. It just seems that the coloring and the artwork in the Green Lantern universe, I think, is the best. It's one of the reasons why I love them so much. It's Giannis Nieves and Roge Antonio are the artists. And then there's Will Quintana is the colorist. And I'm looking forward to reading this. I probably, since I've never read a New Guardians, it's probably bad for me to start with the final issue. But hey, what the hell, you know? I started reading Red Lantern an issue ago. I loved it, and I started picking up the trades. Isn't that Hal Jordan's girlfriend? I don't know what's going on there. I'm all confused. I'm just going to have to read it. All right. The Mignolaverse has expanded again for me. We all know that I love Hellboy. I love BPRD. I love Abe Sapien. And I've been waiting for Frankenstein Underground to come out. Frankenstein. Now, this is going to have huge implications, I guess, for the BPRD Hellboy universe. That's what Mike Mignola has teased. It's basically going to give the backstory of Frankenstein as he stands in the Mignolia Universe. I guess he and Hellboy do have somewhat of a history. There they are, where it looks like in a boxing match. And in an interview, I'm going to read it directly, Mignola said, "It's intimidating as hell to take on an icon like the Frankenstein monster. I'm trying to do something that's true to the origin of Mary Shelley created for the creature, but also captures a bit of the feel that Boris Karloff brought to the role in the classic Universal films. At the same time, I'm throwing the monster into an entirely new environment, so I think the result will be something new. It's an odd one, but ultimately will be an important new wrinkle to the Hellboy BPRD world." So I really look forward to that. I really look forward to see where this is going to go. And I've been waiting for this to come out for a long time. I think it started getting teased like right when I started collecting again. And I always had my eye on it. And I was glad that I was able to get a hold of it, because when I went to the comic book shop, there was only about 3 issues of it left. And I went in there at about 5 o'clock. So I was lucky to have scored one. And it looks like you definitely see Frankenstein do some battling. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And, of course, the new BPRD number 129 comes out. This has got the all-star team of Mignola, John Arcudi, James Herron, Dave Stewart. What you say? It's the same exact team for Image's Rumble comics, minus the Mike Mignola part. Howard, Agent Howard, the mysterious Agent Howard with the prehistoric ties, continues to help B.P.R.D. battling huge monsters in the snowy landscape. I'm going to pull out the Nuff Said card because that's all you need to say. That's going to be my new go-to when I don't have much to say about a comic. But when you have Dave Stewart doing the coloring and you look at this here, and you got James Herron doing the artwork, you can't go wrong. I mean, you just can't go wrong. I mean, just some of the panels in this book are great. There's this strange female that was introduced last issue. See that? What's dreaming out of her head? I mean, I love that. I just love that. I love BPRD and I love Abe Sapien. Which, by the way, I think Abe Sapien right now is probably my favorite Mignola book. So, okay, Outcast, number 7. I read the trade. Excellent book. This is by Kirkman, who is the writer from The Walking Dead. It's an exorcism story. I guess in this issue, it's kind of has to do about rape. We find out if the main character, the protagonist, whose name I forget. Remember, I read over like 30 different titles a month. Sometimes I forget. But we find out whether or not he had sexually assaulted, I believe it was his wife. Now, his wife and I think that his son have had possession issues. They've been possessed. And this guy seems to have the magic touch when it comes to possessions. He's even known by the demons that have possessed others in his life, and he's referred to as the Outcast, which I thought was really cool. I think I'm actually, I don't really want to talk about it too much, because I think I'm actually going to do kind of a full special review of this first trade, of the Outcast trade. But I really want to thank J-Rocks and DN8 Comics for introducing me to this. They kind of knew that I'm kind of into these exorcism-type stories, and that I'm very, very intrigued by these stories, and I'm just glad that they told me to pick this up. Here's kind of the old preacher in town, and he seems to be having here a mea culpa moment with God. And he's been going through some issues. And it's kind of cool the way that he's written, too. It seems like that he has some problems possibly with gambling, that he may take some of the funds that are raised by the church and trying to double and triple his money by playing nightly poker games. So I really thought that was cool, too. So it's a very kind of slow-burning, kind of slow-moving kind of story, but it's written so well that it's just completely enjoyable. And I liked it. Okay, Princess Leia, number 2. This is going to be a 5-part miniseries, and I have to say that this was probably the weakest link of the Star Wars books that have come out. Probably my favorite one so far is just the Star Wars title, followed very closely by Darth Vader, and then this one. The problem that I had with it is kind of the artwork. I'm not really a big fan of. It's Terry and Rachel Dodson, dynamic husband and wife duo. It's just kind of weird. It's like in some panels, you know, it really will look like Carrie Fisher and Princess Leia, and then in other panels, it's like I have no idea who it looks like. Like, you know, like here's some guy holding her nose. Looks like the dude from L.A. Law. I forget that name. Now, that kind of looks like her. But then when you go over there, doesn't really look like her. And she just kind of looks different in every panel. And I don't know. I just kind of have an issue with the artistic integrity in that way. Whereas I think that the other titles, and I don't remember who the artists are, but especially in the Star Wars title, I think that they look very, very, very similar to the movie counterparts. And it really just continues my brain into that universe, you know. And this, it's just like I have issues. But then I started reading it, and the story was pretty good. It kind of, the last issue literally took place immediately after. Do you remember in the end of Star Wars: A New Hope, where all the rebels, you know, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Chewbacca, they're all getting awarded the medals. Actually, I don't think Chewbacca got awarded a medal. Damn, racist against Wookiees. It takes place like right after the events of that, immediately. It kind of showed that in the beginning. It shows Princess Leia giving a speech, and all the rebels kind of refer to her as an ice queen, and they say that she has no feelings. This is because we all know that Alderaan got blown up, all her people completely wiped out, gone, killed. So I guess, you know, some of the rebels are, you know, expecting more of an emotional speech from her, and she was just very short and to the point because she was like, we got work to do. And basically the crux of the story is going to be that she has to travel around the galaxy looking for surviving members of Alderaan, who maybe were not on the planet when it got blown up. And that's what her mission in life is now. And she ends up recruiting a female, I guess an X-Wing pilot, who refers to herself as a loyalist to, oh my god, what did she, I forget what she called. Someone who's like loyal to the crown. I can forget what the word is for it. And she wants to preserve their heritage, so she's all in, and she ends up helping the princess escape from the planet that they're on, wherever that ceremony was held. I forget where it was, because the powers that be do not want Princess Leia to leave the planet, because there's been a bounty placed on her head, because the Imperials know that she had a lot to do with the blowing up of the Death Star. So it was kind of interesting, and it reminded me a lot of Sinestro, in that that's Sinestro's main mission in life too, right? Is to round up and save all the Korrigans. I probably pronounced that wrong. But his people, because his planet got destroyed as well, and there are remaining Korrigans scattered throughout the universe that he wants to save and protect. So I guess I had an affinity in that regard. Hopefully it won't be too overlapping with like the Sinestro stuff where it's all kind of like, been there, done that. You know what I mean? Okay, Amazing Spider-Man 16.1. Because I guess the last couple issues of Spider-Man have been kind of filler after the whole big Spider-Verse event. You had the epilogue, which did have some interesting things happening in it. And then last issue, where it was like a two-part short stories, Peter Parker having trouble with his company. And then I think there was a Black Cat story. To be honest, I didn't read last issues yet. This is Spiral Part 1. I'm not sure how many issues this is going to be, but I guess this is involved. There's a battle for the underworld, the crime underworld of Spider-Man. And I think that there's going to be a whole bunch of different villains in this. Let me see here. I got one of my cheat sheets here. I guess the Wraith, vigilante known as the Wraith, who's Captain Watanabe. You know, she's on the police force, and then she moonlights as this Wraith character, who I believe is this woman here. This is going to be the first issue that I've ever been introduced to Wraith. I haven't read that, but there's Spider-Man doing battle, and I may be wrong. I don't know. But she's firing bazookas and shit at him. Boom. Ba-boom, ba-boom. And I guess there's going to be a host of other enemies. Hammerhead, Tombstone, the Circus of Crime, Black Cat, and Mr. Negative. And only one can rule the underworld, and they'll stop at nothing to eliminate their competition. Who's going to be left standing when the dust settles? So hopefully this will be good. I hope that it's not as devastatingly boring as the whole Cat woman saga and her crime underlord dealings, but I'm hopeful because I really did enjoy Spider-Verse, and I think that I want to stick with Amazing Spider-Man for a little longer and see how that goes. Not quite on the keep or sleep status yet, but it's blipping. Blip, 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 blip on the radar for that, for keep and sleep status. Okay, Punisher, number 16. I love this cover as well. Love the coloring. The Howling Commandos leader in the last issue Remember, Frank got captured. Leader of the Howling Commandos lets him go. Gives Punisher a lead as to who in the government was tasking the Howling Commandos to kill him and to kidnap Frank Castle's family. And Punisher basically goes on a mission in D.C. to clean house and terrorize a corrupt bastard-ass politician. So I'm really looking forward to that, because who likes politicians, right? They're such dicks. And here he is playing golf with him. The only way that Frank Castle can, right? He's got him on the putting green. Leaving him for dead. I don't know. Looks like he roughed him up quite a bit. Looks like he had quite an intense interrogation with this fellow. Nothing like a putting iron to the gut, huh, people? So I'm looking forward to this, and I'm pleasantly surprised with Punisher, a title from my youth when I collected way, way back when in the 90s. And I'm pleasantly surprised with how much I still enjoy Punisher, and I will be keeping that title. Okay, Plunder. Number 2 of 4, Think Thing, Out in the Sea. I was a little disappointed because the teaser and the tagline when this was originally introduced was Somali pirates against illegal immigrant Chinese persons on the high sea. I was like, damn, I wanted to see what that was going to be all about, and it didn't really end up being about that much at all. It's just basically Somali pirates that stumble upon an abandoned Chinese vessel, and there's all kinds of weird stuff afoot and weird kinds of creatures. Looking right in the opening page, leaves off right where it left off in the last issue. That guy's eye is gouged out. He puts his gun in there. Some sort of ringworm kind of thing crawls out, scurries across the floor. Wondering what happens if that comes into play later on in the issue. And it's just kind of like a haunted house on the sea. And of course there's, your customary infighting. When things start to hit the fan, people's tempers flare. They choke each other, they shoot each other, shoot them in the eye. All kinds of crazy stuff. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this goes. This is Boom Comics. Let me give you some more creature feature stuff here. See what's happening here? It's kind of like The Thing. I don't know if this creature kind of just absorbs the human body and makes it into some collective mass of gooey, ooey creature, creepy crawly. But I'm going to stick with it. It's only 4 issues. And I love the cover. Boom did a really good job of making like a quality, like thick cover. I wish they did that with more of their comics. That would be nice. And finally, we have Burning Fields, number 3 of 8. This is the Iraqi murder mystery story. There are kind of ritualistic murders going on in these oil fields, in these U.S. oil fields. It kind of touches upon issues with private contractors out in Iraq. We know how controversial of a subject that is, to have private security forces in places of war. It kind of has a strange buddy story element, because you have the main character who's a female former military investigator, who is teamed up with a local Iraqi investigator, and they kind of swap stories about culture and beliefs that they have, and the Iraqi investigator kind of gives his 2 cents about why he feels America is over in this country, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that it talks about issues in the current landscape of events, and it can be a little bit controversial, and some of the stuff may be hard to hear, and it's very thought-provoking, and it's good, and I'm glad that people don't want to silence it. But right in the opening sequence, we have torture. If you remember in the first issue, those pliers came into play. You remember they showed that in the very first panel, so I'm wondering if this is a flashback to that event. I don't know yet. But the art in this is very, very dark. Very, very, like, heavily shaded and lined. Very mute color palette. And I'm enjoying it so far, and I think I'm going to stick with it because I really want to see if this is like a cult that is doing the ritualistic murders or if it's some sort of supernatural entity. I mean, they're definitely leaving hints at it. I mean, if you look at the cover, it's, you know, somebody's forehead and top of their head with all kinds of eyes. So I'm wondering, Jesus, what is this thing? What is this thing? There's the main character there. She's pretty handy with a pistol, let me tell you. So check it out. It's kind of an underdog title, underdog independent title. My favorite kind of title. And that's been the Hump Day Haul. Sorry it kind of took a serious tone, but I'm just kind of presenting ideas. Sometimes we do that. Talk about what's going on in the landscape of comics. And hopefully my amiibo obsession is not going to distract me from the comics, and I'll be better prepared for next time. Let me know, guys, what issues you picked up this week. Let me know what you think of the whole Batgirl controversy. Let me know if you're going to protest Batgirl, if you've been buying it already in response to this, or if you think DC made the right decision. I'm Philly Kuts with the Hump Day Haul. Peace.